Because I am here with Dr Sophie Shotter.
Hi.
And I'm going to have my armpits injected with Toxin, and I'm sure you've seen me doing this before, but if you haven't, this is because Toxin is not to relax wrinkles in the armpits, which there are none, but it is to reduce sweating. It is to, oh Sophie, I'm losing that ability to speak straight. It interferes with the nerve signals.
Exactly, it just blocks the action of the sweat glands so that they don't sweat as much, and for some people it makes them totally dry, and for others it just reduces to a normal level of sweating.
Yeah, and this is a serious medical treatment if you have a condition called hyperhidrosis, which is excessive sweating, which I don't, so it's a real kind of icing on the cake treatment, I always think, but it is so fab, particularly when it is as hot as it is at the moment, just not to be all sweaty. And I have got to that stage where I know I had this done a year ago. It lasts about 9 months. I am definitely sweating, and I would rather not be, so here I am.
It's nice not to.
Yeah.
So as relaxed as you can be, and obviously you've had this before, you know it stings a little bit in some spots.
But it is tiny injections. I mean, people always ask for something on the pain scale, but it's
hard,
the tiny,
isn't it?
minimal pain of the needle going through the skin.
Yeah.
And I guess if you had never had it done before, it might be a bit scary. How much is it going to hurt? But I mean, it really doesn't.
I always say every now and then, because I have it as well, same reason as you, I just prefer not to be conscious or mindful of sweating, particularly if I'm on stage or something like that, and you're under lights or filming like you and I often do. So I have it probably twice a year, and every now and then one of the injections will catch and make me jump a tiny bit, and then it's over again.
Yeah, but you can see I'm not jumping, and I'm not kind of,
and these needles
being
are
deliberately
tiny.
tough. Yeah, they are absolutely tiny, and bless you have lined up lots of different fresh needles with nice little sharp points to go in. So what's it looking like?
Usual
tiny blebs.
bumps like that. And that's important when we do this treatment. We want it to be quite superficial because the sweat glands are within the skin. So if we don't have the bumps, it means we're probably a bit too deep.
Okay.
But yeah.
And it takes a bit more Toxin than you'd use in the face, doesn't it? Because you've got quite an area to cover, and you've got to get these little blebs all the way around kind of where the hair follicles are.
Exactly. So I always cover where the hair follicles are and slightly further around the edges, because often that leaves a little bit of a residual patch of sweating if you don't do that. But yeah, it does use a reasonable quantity of Toxin. And also I use more dilute Toxin than I do in the face, because I want it to spread.
So it will spread the whole way across under.
Exactly.
Fantastic. That's really good.
There we go.
Really
So
good tip. Yeah. And these little blebs will go down over the next, I don't know, 12 hours or so.
Yeah.
So, won't they?
Just noticed I've given you one little bruise. I'm
Oh
sorry.
goodness, don't worry.
And obviously I just wish we'd got you in last week, because ahead of this crazy heat wave.
Yeah, I was just grumbling, saying I was sitting up in the study this morning filming until the temperature got to 33 degrees and the sweat was just running everywhere, and I wasn't looking very cool on camera, so I thought that really is enough. I've got all my lights and everything upstairs, so that's why I was up there. But by the end of the afternoon I was doing conference calls at the bottom of the stairs with the dog, saying this is the coolest place in the house.
But you can't function in those temperatures, not properly, let alone hair and makeup stay looking nice.
No, it's mad, but it's lovely and air conditioned in here, which is great.
I'm very grateful for that.
Mm.
And then the last few are coming around this bottom edge. So we're just literally, it's approximately one little bleb every square centimetre is the idea. And in principle, you know, you could draw a grid out, but actually when we're raising these blebs, you can see
your own
really
pattern,
visually.
And roughly what does it add up to cost-wise?
I think off the top of my head we charge from 600.
It's more, I was going to say it's a sort of other side of 500, whereas Toxin in the face can be sort of definitely under if it's not that much. Yeah, but it does last. That's the thing I find
it does.
thrilling.
I mean, when we talk about hyperhidrosis, I'm going to switch onto your other arms. Hyperhidrosis is, you know, I've had patients over the years who tell me when they go shopping, they'll buy the same top twice, so that they'll go out, pack the spare in their bag, and when they've sweated through the first, they'll go and change into the second, and no one ever realises. So it's actually a very debilitating condition for a lot of people.
And I remember talking to one practitioner who had one, if not more, clients who were barristers. And they had their hands injected, which must be really painful because you've got so many nerve endings in your hands. But he said for them in their profession, the importance of having a nice, dry, firm handshake really couldn't be overestimated. So for them, it was worth it.
Hands, feet.
Feet.
Some people sweat so much on the soles of their feet that their feet can't stay in their shoes properly.
Wow.
And scalps are another one I do quite a lot of.
Scalps?
Yeah, so scalps. And again, so sometimes simply because if they sweat a lot in their hair, or menopausal hot flashes and so on, it can flatten your hair out. So
for sure.
Again, thinking about, you don't necessarily want it written all over you what you're experiencing at that moment.
Yeah, true.
And also I've had it before where, so for example, when I've exercised, then I don't find my blow dries quite as flat afterwards.
Yeah.
If I've had treatment there.
And I know if you have really superficial toxin injections in your skin, in your nose or your forehead, it can reduce the skin oiliness. Does it do the same in the scalp?
Yes, it can reduce the sebum. Yeah, absolutely. And again, also craniofacial sweating. So when you say about small amounts of sweating in the face, so some people it's top lip, nose, cheeks, foreheads. Yeah, that's another area we can treat. But in the face, I'm always cautious with using it in the skin because you can inadvertently knock off the activity of a fine, small muscle.
Oh, okay.
And then end up with smile asymmetries or so.
Okay.
Even when you're super careful.
Yeah.
But hands are sore. So when I treat hands, I will put very strong numbing cream on and put people's hands inside gloves so that they sit there for 45 minutes with the cream really soaking in, and even then you feel it. But again, in the armpit, bearing in mind we know that toxin relaxes muscles. In the armpit, you haven't got any little small muscles here that I'm going to affect negatively, but in your hand you have. And it's possible to knock off the activity of a hand muscle. So for example, I once treated a professional, or was asked to treat a professional pole dancer because they struggled with hand sweating, and I said no. Because that
loosened her grip.
Exactly. And there are other options that she can try.
Yeah.
So I advised against it.
Very neat little grid.
Try my best. Always have to be aesthetic, even with something like this.
Appreciate it.
Final few drops.
And it takes about a week, 10 days to sort of settle in, really, doesn't it? Like any kind of toxin anywhere.
Yeah, it still has the same process. Some people, it's interesting. I've got one patient who I've been treating for several years now, who only has to come once a year, and hers has lasted an entire year.
Yeah, my goodness.
And others where it's definitely the twice a year.
Yeah.
But it does kick in and behave exactly the same way as it does in the face.
Brilliant.
There we go.
Okay.
You are all done.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.